The Supreme Court delivered a historic decision, striking down President Trump's sweeping tariff regime and sending shockwaves through the global economy. The ruling dismantled tariffs affecting nearly 70% of U.S. imports, abruptly ending an era of economic confrontation and redefining the limits of executive power. For years, the administration had used emergency powers to bypass Congress and impose tariffs, but the court's decision reasserted the legislative branch's constitutional authority over trade. Businesses and consumers braced for change. Importers eyed potential refunds, while consumers hoped for lower prices, though the damage to supply chains and international relationships lingered. The verdict was celebrated as a defense of constitutional checks and balances, but condemned by the administration as a blow to national security. Rather than settling the debate, the court's decision reignited fierce political battles over America's role in global trade. The nation now faces a complex reckoning with the consequences of years of trade war, as policymakers scramble to chart a new course. The future of American trade policy is once again up for grabs, with uncertainty and opportunity in equal measure. The Supreme Court's ruling marked a decisive shift, restoring Congress's constitutional authority over trade after decades of executive encroachment. By invalidating tariffs imposed under emergency powers, the court drew a clear boundary. The president cannot override Congress's explicit role in regulating commerce. This decision forces future trade actions to go through Congress, demanding public debate and coalition building instead of unilateral executive moves. Businesses and foreign governments must now watch Capitol Hill, not the White House, for trade policy signals. The era of swift, unpredictable trade actions is over, replaced by a slower but more transparent legislative process. Yet the struggle isn't finished. Other legal avenues for tariffs remain, and the administration is already exploring them. The court's decision sets the stage for ongoing legal and political battles over the true limits of presidential power. Congress, newly empowered, must now step up and define a coherent trade strategy for the nation. The Supreme Court's rejection of Trump's tariffs was rooted in a simple principle: emergency powers cannot override Congress's authority to regulate trade and taxation. The administration argued the fentanyl crisis justified broad tariffs, but the court found this link too weak and constitutionally unsound. The justices clarified that emergency powers allow targeted sanctions, not sweeping tariffs on general trade. This ruling reaffirmed the separation of powers, ensuring that even in crisis, the executive cannot seize congressional authority. The decision sends a clear message: only Congress can impose broad trade measures, preserving the balance at the heart of American democracy. The economic fallout from the tariffs has been staggering, with businesses paying billions in duties and consumers facing years of higher prices. Now, the government must refund an estimated $142 billion to importers, creating a logistical and fiscal nightmare. Wall Street has jumped in, buying refund claims from companies desperate for quick cash, highlighting skepticism about the government's ability to pay. Many businesses, having restructured supply chains and stockpiled goods, are left with obsolete strategies and excess inventory. The fear of new tariffs keeps investment and hiring on hold, stalling the potential benefits of the court's decision. The process of unwinding the tariffs is messy, with uncertainty clouding every step. For now, industries remain in limbo, waiting for Washington's next move. The ruling may have ended the tariffs, but it unleashed a new wave of economic and strategic uncertainty. Behind the headlines, small businesses and families bore the brunt of the tariff war. Entrepreneurs faced impossible choices: absorb rising costs or pass them to customers, often leading to layoffs, closures, or stalled growth. For many, the Supreme Court's ruling came too late. The damage was already done. American families paid more for everyday goods, with the tariffs acting as a regressive tax that hit low- and middle-income households hardest. The refund process is complex, favoring large corporations with legal resources, while small businesses struggle to reclaim what they lost. The human cost is measured in shuttered storefronts, lost jobs, and financial strain that lingers long after the policy is changed. The legacy of the tariffs is felt most acutely on Main Street, not Wall Street. The Supreme Court's decision sent ripples across the globe, offering relief but also deep skepticism among America's trading partners. Countries like China and the EU welcomed the end of tariffs but remain wary, having learned to distrust the volatility of U.S. trade policy. Many nations are now diversifying trade ties and forging regional agreements that exclude the U.S., seeking stability elsewhere. The world is hedging against future American unpredictability, building new economic alliances. While the removal of tariffs is a short-term win, the long-term trend may be American isolation from key global trade networks. The U.S. is now seen as an unreliable partner, a perception not easily reversed. The court's ruling solved a domestic crisis, but left America's global standing diminished. International partners are moving forward, no longer taking U.S. commitments for granted. Despite the Supreme Court's clarity, American trade policy is now mired in uncertainty. The administration is already seeking new legal grounds for tariffs, keeping businesses on edge and stalling investment. Companies hesitate to revert to old supply chains, fearing sudden policy reversals. Congress, now responsible for trade, faces the daunting task of forging consensus in a polarized climate. The risk of political gridlock looms, threatening to leave the nation without a coherent trade strategy. President Trump may seek new powers from Congress or test legal boundaries, setting up future court battles. For now, American trade is defined by a tug-of-war between executive ambition, legislative authority, and judicial oversight. The economy remains caught in the crossfire, waiting for a clear direction. The Supreme Court's decision will be remembered as a defining moment for American democracy, reaffirming the separation of powers. By striking down unilateral tariffs, the court set a precedent that executive authority has firm constitutional limits, even in emergencies. The judiciary's role as guardian of the Constitution was strengthened, ensuring future presidents face rigorous scrutiny when invoking emergency powers. Congress must now reclaim its responsibility for trade, engaging in real debate and policy-making. This ruling forces a long-overdue public conversation about America's economic future. The case will stand alongside other landmark decisions that shape the boundaries of government power. The tariff war left economic scars and altered global relationships, but its greatest legacy is the constitutional clarity it delivered. In the end, the American system proved resilient, with the rule of law prevailing over political expediency.